be treated to Ezemvelo Zulu dance group, and that means the beauty of nature. It is exquisite indeed, as is the tradition, the customs, the culture, and of course our heritage. Enjoy.
All right, some stunning sounds coming out of the Ezemvelo Wetlands Park. That's where Ayanda has been broadcasting this morning, talking about World Rhino Day. Well, combating rhino is the responsibility of the entire country at large. But management and initiatives to combat poaching of these majestic creatures is undertaken by many stakeholders. Joining us now in studio, we are joined by Dr. David Mabunda. No, I've got a completely different name for you here, so I'm so glad that I'm not reading what's written there on the autocue. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm so glad that you're here in studio with us. Welcome.
Thank you, Leanne.
All right, so we're talking about the conservation of rhinos, and I mean, it's a major issue that seems to, over the years, be getting worse and worse when it comes to poaching. How do you feel at this juncture and on a day like this?
There is no single solution to the problem of rhino poaching in our region and the rest of the world. We need to work with society at large, and we have proven at Kruger in Mfolozi that we can actually reduce the scourge of poaching if we work with communities. We are clearing the park from outside. That is, working with communities who are so committed as well in reversing the scourge of rhino poaching. No single solution is going to bring about an end to this problem.
Yeah, well, that's the reality. And when you say working with communities, and that's what I really want to dwell on a little bit, what do you expect from communities? How will you be working with them?
Well, we've been doing it for quite some time now, Leanne, and in fact, we've only lost 14 rhino in a bulk of about 3,000 rhino that we have in Kruger in Mfolozi. It starts at an awareness level, and then you progress in terms of involving people in fence line, monitoring corridor roads, and also just the day-to-day engagement of communities around issues of law enforcement, because they understand what is going on. It's their rhino, it's their heritage, yeah, and it's important for them to see it that way.
Yeah, I mean, there are some parks and there's some areas that are doing exceptionally well, and I bring into the conversation the Marekele National Park as an example, and I bring it up as an example because we just did a broadcast from there last week where they were saying they haven't had a single incident, and they have obviously not allowed to display how many numbers of rhinos they have, but they've got a sense of pride in and amongst the community, and everybody working together to ensure that they are protected. So that's a good example of how it can work.
Definitely, Leanne. And we also in the province of KwaZulu-Natal have those kind of examples. And as I've indicated, with Mfolozi alone, we only lost 3 this year so far. And there aren't many protected areas that boast that kind of achievement. And Ezemvelo at Ozabeni and Mkuze, we are indeed working very hard there to ensure that we achieve the same levels.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about other initiatives, and particularly focusing in on something like the Kruger National Park, where that is seeing devastating amounts of rhinos that are being poached. What are we not doing right there? What do you feel can be done better?
Well, I wouldn't want to speak on behalf of the Kruger National Park, but on behalf of the country. It's very complex to fight a counter-insurgency war. which is what the Kruger and the rest of other agencies and reserves are facing in the country. In fact, what we need is a total solution that includes everybody, that includes all interventions, including technology, human interventions, the newest methodologies available in the market to try and combat it. So the sheer scale of Kruger and the fact that it shares a very, very long border with Mozambique is what makes the task there very complex. It's not easy.
No, it's not. It is not an easy situation. But then again, when we're looking at these numbers and we're looking at the battle that we're fighting, it's also not easy to have a look at that. So it's something we need to do. I was reading a very inspiring story, and I think it's a story about 5 of our youth, our young South Africans that are heading off to Vietnam to actually talk to the Vietnamese people and a conference there that's taking place. Because as far as we understand and know, that is the center of where the horns do go to and the trade goes to, in terms of they believe it's good for medicinal purposes, where these are all fallacies and myths, aren't they?
Exactly. But obviously people have lived through those fallacies over many, many decades and centuries, and it will be very difficult for them to simply just walk away from that. That is why it's important to appeal to the youth who haven't really got sucked into those kind of beliefs, and by interacting with them at an international scale through young people coming from our country, we hope that we will be able to change their attitudes and perceptions, because most of it is really about perception.
Let's talk a little bit about yourself now, and I see that you've been in an acting position of the Ezemvelo KwaZulu-Natal wildlife. You can't get this out of your blood. I know you try to leave sandparks, but there's no way they're going to let you go. When it comes to wildlife, I think it's something that we turn to you and we need for you for a long time. How is it going? How is it going there at Ezemvelo?
Well, Leanne, conservation is part of my DNA.
Exactly.
I would never leave it.
True.
And it's not defined by being attached to a particular institution. I'll always be available for my country if I'm asked to assist. Yes, I took early retirement, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing now at Ezemvelo to refocus the institution to deal with challenges that any other institution might face. We are doing quite well. Remember, this is one of the oldest institutions, conservation institutions in the country, formed as early as 1895 on the early initiatives of King Shaka, who established a protected area there in terms of formal conservation practices, and followed later by King Dingiswayo. So it's a real exciting organization with a boundless future.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. Not to mention, and I think you and I have actually visited this park together, where Ayanda is broadcasting from Isimangaliso. This is actually live footage that we're getting right now. So aren't you feeling a little bit left out? I mean, look at that. Look at that croc that's sitting there on the edge of the water.
I do feel left out to be sitting in the city and looking at it from the television. But it's really exciting. There is no, that's why it's called Isimangaliso. It's really the wonder of the world. Right from the south in Mapelan up to the north at Lake Sibaya, the beautiful coastline, the undulating sand dunes, it's marvelous.
Yeah.
It's something that we can't put a price on.
Yeah, we certainly can't. I mean, it's just so beautiful. Now that we have you in studio, I mean, do you have a message that you would like to give to South Africans on this World Rhino Day? Because a lot of South Africans are feeling exceptionally worried, exceptionally despondent when each year we see the figures moving higher and higher. And I know there's a call for all of us to work together, pride in communities to help. But what would you like to let South Africans know?
We should not lose hope as South Africans. I know the future looks bleak, especially when we talk of rhino management. But we were able to bring the rhino back into life in the 60s. This too shall pass. All that we need to do is to work together as a team at all levels, community, state, private, and international levels, which is what our cabinet has approved in the last couple of weeks, for us to be able to forge ahead using whatever resources that are at our disposal. And I think I'm still optimistic that one day we will defeat rhino poaching.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Dr. David Mabunda, always a pleasure talking to you. Former CEO of SANParks, now acting CEO of Ezemvelo, KwaZulu-Natal Wildlife, here in Johannesburg, attending a conference. And thank you for stopping by to talk to us on this special day.
Thank you very much, Leanne.